the film to Bob Iger and Alan Horn and Sean Bailey. So there you go.
They just watched the Practically Perfect Making of Mary Poppins, which is your and your design team's vision brought to life on screen.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, you know, I will say it was so great having the wonderful EPK folks on set with us, because we knew we were doing something special. It's so rare to do a movie like this, and 54 years after the first film, so that was incredibly moving, and I think all of us knew right from the very start we were doing something extraordinary. And we also felt a great deal of, I don't know, we had humility, I guess, because we were following in the footsteps of that great film. But everyone signed on right away. Meryl Streep wanted to be part of this. Colin Firth wanted to be part of this. Lin-Manuel, his first film, in his first project after Hamilton, wanted to do this. Emily Blunt, of course, said yes. I mean, Angela Lansbury said yes. Dick Van Dyke. I mean, it was sort of an incredible experience, but I think everyone wanted to be part of sending this message of hope and light out into the world now. And that's really why we wanted to be part of this. I mean, the first Mary Poppins film was my first film that I ever saw. I was 4 years old. I saw it in the movie theater, and it changed my life, and the course of my life, and even as a 4-year-old, because it stays with you so deeply. And I will say that it means so much to everyone. So I think having people there recording the making of and how we were putting this together and what we were doing, we knew it was special. And so and they were incredible. Your team was incredible. The Disney team is extraordinary, and they were there. And we were all, I guess, very, very happy that they were there, and proud to share it with them.
There was a lot of talk of passion and heart from all those that were involved, whether in front of the camera or behind the camera. Was that evident on set that everybody was in this to win?
No question. I mean, we just, when you get to do an original musical, I'd never done an original musical for film before. All the film musicals I had done had come from Broadway, and that has its own specific challenges. But this was creating something from scratch. I mean, we had the beautiful P.L. Travers stories, but if you read, there are 8 books, and there's all this wonderful material with great characters, but they are episodic adventures. There's no narrative to any of the books. She comes and leaves, but they have these adventures, and so we had to create an original story, and we chose to set it 25 years later, with the next generation of the Banks family, and what happened to Michael and Jane as they got older. And we wanted to set it, I wanted to set the film in the 30s when the original books were written. The first book was written in 1934, the second one in 1935, and so we chose to, and when you read the books, you feel the Depression era. They talk about the bank being broken, or that the 17 Cherry Tree Lane was the shabbiest house on the street, and Mrs. Banks had a choice between fixing up the house or having children. So, I wanted to set the film in the Depression era of the books. And so the first film was set in 1910, so here we were 25 years later, and so Michael and Jane would be older. So it was thrilling to create something completely new. And that's why we had so much rehearsal time, which you see a lot of. I mean, not only did we have an original musical to create, and we don't have out of town like you have with a Broadway show. You don't have that kind of time or previews or anything like that to get it right. So we had that time. But also, you see the scale and the enormity of what we had to accomplish, because there was a live action animation sequence which was completely hand-drawn. We had to take a lot of animators out of retirement to do it, because it's a very rare skill. But I really wanted to recreate that feeling of the artistry of that hand-drawn work. Of these big-scale musical numbers, there was so much flying that had to be done. I mean, that whole underwater sequence was all on harnesses, etc. So we had children involved, so many dancers, so many stunt people, parkour, great bikers. I mean, it was a massive production. I would, it's sort of in the scale of the classic MGM musicals of the 40s and 50s, that kind of thing. So we all knew it was really, so the passion you're talking about is that we were all just, grabbing hands together, jumping off the cliff together, and say, we knew the bar was so high, but we knew how lucky we were to be able to be part of it.
Well, I think you definitely hit the bar. Let's see if we got some questions from some of these folks there in the back row. Let me bring you the mic. Get a mic. Little Phil Donahue action here.
Thanks for having us here. My question is, I saw in the featurettes that there was the original Mary Poppins was in there. I'm wondering if there's any. Would you know if there's any talks of a 4K release of that?
Oh gosh, I don't know. That's a complicated thing. I don't know. You have to go back into those vaults and figure that one out. I mean, I will say I return to it all the time. I mean, because it shaped my life, as I was saying. It means so much to me. And I actually caught it once at the El Capitan because they screened it. They did a screening of it. And it was thrilling to see it on the big screen. I mean, that's what's so wonderful. I mean, this is a kind of smallish screen, but, to see a movie like this, our movie, the first film, to see big-scale musical event musicals on the big screen, there's nothing like it. Our premiere was at the Dolby, and the Dolby Theater where they hold the Oscars, and that was unbelievable. And what I will say, the first premiere, I know people who know the first Mary Poppins well will know that the first premiere was at Grauman's Chinese, which is right next door, and the fact that we literally closed down all of Hollywood Boulevard for our premiere, and they had two. It was sort of like, wow, we're part of that legacy.
Let me grab a question from this side.
Oh, I love your shirt and bow tie. Look at you. Oh, Sandy Powell will be very impressed.
Oh, great.
Hey, George.
Hi. Okay, here's my question. At the end, that beautiful up scene?
Yes.
While you were shooting it,
yes.
Did you go up? Did some of the people behind the scenes go up just to experience it?
I probably should have. Now I feel bad, George, that I didn't, because I was asking everybody to do this. I like to do as much practically as possible. I don't like to do the sort of CG, everybody in a green room. We did that all at Pinewood Studios on the backlot there, that gorgeous backlot garden. And everybody was going up in the air. I mean, there is some of it where everybody is on green screens and so forth. But how they all lifted off and all the beginning of those journeys was all on location. And it was scary for them. But, I will say when the music is blaring, and you have that and you're singing, and I think you forget about the heights. I mean, when Emily Blunt makes her first entrance, not in that number, but at the beginning of the film, that's her coming in. Mm-hmm. And I remember I asked her to do it, and she was literally above the trees. And she thought, do you really need me to do this? And I said, but we're waiting 40 years. You've got to make a grand entrance, and it has to be you, I mean, a little side note. I mean, I don't think Julie would care if I said this, but because I think people know. But that's not Julie Andrews coming in the first film. Up and over in the landing, it's not her. Because they wouldn't let her. They were too nervous about, I didn't care. I thought, well, let's just kill them. But I just wanted it to be her. And she did it. She said it was so scary because they go up and up and up and up and up. And Lin-Manuel was getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And she said, and a lot of people said, well, just look straight over the horizon, look over the trees, you'll be fine. And she said, that was horrible. That was worse to see that I'm above the trees. But I think once I put the music on, and I kept saying, it's not you coming in, it's Mary Poppins coming in. And she bought that.
How many takes?
I think I did it, I want to say 3 times. Maybe, yeah, I think 3. Just because I always get nervous that something happened with the camera, But she was perfect the first time.
Great, thank you.
You have a question here?
Were there any scenes that you wanted in the movie that got cut?
That's such a great question. Usually there are. On this, there's a little tiny scene that's on the DVD, a little tag of a scene and that was the only scene we cut. I think it was because we had to be very meticulous about, before we started shooting, about what we had. There was no time for fatness, you know what I mean? We had to be really specific. And so there was a little tag at the end of Topsy's scene, Meryl Streep's scene, where they're leaving on the bike, on that crazy bike, and they leave the alley and they're riding away, and they look back and the alley disappears. as if it was never there. It's sort of like it did exist or did it not exist. So it's like sort of make it a little mini part of the adventure. But it felt too much of it like we had a double ending. But that was the only thing. That was the only thing we cut. Yeah, I didn't use.
So before I go to another question, Rob, I understand you might have brought a guest with you today?
I do have a special guest and this is a special guest. And I will say for me, probably one of the greatest actors that has ever lived on this planet. She is honestly my hero, and has done everything, and is completely brilliant at everything she's ever done. She's legendary, and to be in the room with her, I'm telling you right now, the temperature goes way up. Miss Angela Lansbury.
What an introduction, my God. Still really good in this chair, not yeah.
Can you get up there? Yes. Those beautiful long legs.
Hello, everybody. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, Don. Thank you.
We've known each other. We worked together a while back in 1996 in a wonderful television musical that Angela starred in called Mrs. Santa Claus, and Jerry Herman wrote an original musical for her. And that was they obviously had worked together in Mame and Dear World. But this was an incredible experience, and it was my first experience working on film. So she means so much to me in so many ways.
It was a wonderful beginning. And look what you've achieved in the meantime. My goodness, congratulations.
We have a question back here in the back row. You want to speak loud for them?
Yes. First of all, I gotta say thank you for both to be here, for us to join us with this really nice and amazing, like movie and person.
It's a great pleasure, believe me.
Yes.
Lovely to be back at Disney.
After 54 years for the masterpiece, you bring it back the most amazing story on the world. And for the new generation, the new millennials, how was for you guys to be part of the new millennials, fact?
What does it feel like?
Yes.
Well, I feel like a fish out of water, to be honest with you. I mean, times have changed, obviously, over the years. We're in a different world from the one that I began all those 50, God knows how many years ago. And I'm adjusting to it, but I have to mind my P's and Q's, as we say. So if I make some boo-boos, you'll forgive me.
I mean, I will say that Angela came from the era of the MGM musical, the Harvey Girls, etc. That's the golden era of musicals on film. And I think that this film tries to recapture that extraordinary level of artistry. And that's something we all achieved, that we all worked to achieve throughout. And for me, I just have to say, having Angela in this film, it's a very small amount of screen time, but it feels so big because it's Angela. And you have to believe that this balloon lady is magical, and who else has that magic? And it's not only her work as an actor, because she disappears into roles with such extraordinary artistry, but also the legacy of what she's brought to film, starting with Gaslight and taking us all the way through the incredible Disney projects like Bedknobs and Broomsticks and like Beauty and the Beast, etc. So to have her there leading the finale for us, you have to understand what that was. That was the honor of my life to have her there.
Well, it was a lovely experience for me because I had my granddaughter with me, and she had never seen me on this. Well, she'd seen me on the screen, I think, maybe not. But anyway, it was her first time to be on a Disney set, which is pretty extraordinary, believe me. When you're a young kid, and she was very young, even though now she's grown up and she's got a baby. But at that time, it was a first for her, and it was the most thrilling experience of her young life to see you directing these extraordinary crowd scenes, massive numbers of people, and me as the balloon lady, you know, that was a fun thing for me to do. You know, you do it with one hand tied behind your back when you've done as many different things as I have. But nevertheless, it was all about character. It was all about the times, and it was a lovely experience for me and for her. So I thank you for that.
Oh, that's lovely, lovely, lovely.
Here, Jessica.
Yeah. For both of you, why do you think the character of Mary Poppins has been beloved for so many decades, and what do you love about her?
Well, I think you have to remember that she is a magical character, and therefore her effect on children is extraordinary, because she brings a quality of magic with her without them even realizing that that's what she's doing. And I think that that's what makes Mary Poppins a character that kids never forget once they've sort of been allowed to watch her in motion. She certainly is an interesting person to be around. And I think that you have managed to bring that to this movie, is that the children are just dazzled by her, but they go ahead and do what she tells them to do. And they find themselves able to do all of these extraordinary things, and that's what makes it magical. It's just lovely. There's nothing like magic, believe me.
It's true. How about the voice?
You got the voice.
Incredible voice.
That's the voice.
Angela's exactly right, and it's the duality of the character too, because she's one thing in real life, and then she which is strict, of course, and very proper, etc., and sometimes abrasive and tough. But then she opens up in these adventures,
yes.
and denies having these adventures. So the unknowingness of who she is, that mystery of who she is, where'd she come from, did the adventures really happen? Did they not? All of that is so fascinating too. And I will say, move into, in a way, for me, Eglantine from Bedknobs and Broomsticks. There's that eccentricity to the character that Angela played in that. And these wonderful characters that children, as Angela said so beautifully, can believe in and take them to these other places. Kids are so cynical these days, I think. And they grow up very quickly. Hello. Sorry. And they grow up very quickly. And so my point is that I think that it's nice to let children be children, as Angela said so beautifully.
Sorry, no. Yes, children should be children. Red shirt in the back.
Okay, so since hello, and thank you for having me. Since there are 8 books, I'm sure everyone wants to know, will there be more Mary Poppins returning stories, movies? Will we get to see more?
Well, there's certainly a lot of material. I mean, as you probably know, the books are very episodic. So as I was saying before, there's no real narrative to any of them. So you have to create a narrative. But I do think that, there's a wealth of material still there to work from. So we'll see. I don't know. Interesting.
Right next.
Oh, thank you so much. So one of my jobs is of being a play therapist. And a play therapist, I'm a child psychologist and a play therapist. And so one of my jobs is actually teaching parents and coaching them how to play and letting go of their inhibitions and how to play with their children and, capture their inner child. So my question to you, especially, during the balloon scene, the beloved balloon scene, is how did you get the actors to tap into their inner child during that scene and during the movie?
Well, with someone like Angela, it's easy because she carries that with her. I mean, Angela is ageless, as you see. Can I say your age in front of people? She's 93. Wow. I just want to put that out there. We should all be so lucky. But it's how she lives her life. She is an extraordinary woman, but that is the lesson right there. I mean, it's just living right here. That's the lesson of how to live. And find the child inside, and the joy inside, and the music inside. That's what she has in space.
Well, think of some of the people that I've looked inside in the course of my career. Make your hair stand on end. It's okay. But obviously, to play a role in which I'm working with children or for children, to make them feel comfortable and happy. Certainly that's something as a as a mother and as a woman, I'm anxious to do. And in some instances, I've had an opportunity, a couple of opportunities, and mainly through Disney. And I'm so thankful for that, because otherwise, if you think of my career, what I've done in the past, and who I've played, and what I've been asked to do as an actress on screen, Manchurian Candidate, for instance, or something like that. So
that needs a round of applause.
Yeah.
Because Manchurian Candidate is one of the most extraordinary films, and your work in that is so extraordinary. She was Oscar nominated for that.
Well, listen, what am I? I am an actress. You can't believe a word I'm saying. But I'm called upon as an actress to play such a variety of roles. But that's what I do, and that's what I was given. I have a God-given talent as an actress. I'm not saying I don't, because I really do, and I know that. And not with any sense of accomplishment necessarily. It was just something that I was born with, and I'm forever thankful, and I thank God every night for it, and for an extraordinarily fruitful career playing so many different things. But working in a Disney film is something totally apart and different from any other roles that I've ever played, because it requires a simplicity and a warmth and a humanity that doesn't really exist in most shows that I've done over the years, and there have been a lot of them, as you know. But so it's a rarity to have the opportunity as an actress to be in a Disney film. And I'll play anything. Just call me up, ask me, I'll be there. So, because I love to work for children. And kids, thank goodness, they will greet me on the street, and they hear my voice, and they'll say, "Oh, it's Mrs. Potts," you know. And God help me that I sound like Mrs. Potts all the time, but apparently I do. It's the, as we call it, the timbre of my voice. And I'm very grateful and thrilled that I had that opportunity during the long, long course of my career. It's really been wonderful.
Time for one last question. How about there in the center with the hat?
Ms. Lansbury, I just wanted to know, because my girlfriend loves bed knobs and broomsticks, and I would love to campaign for Rob to direct it, but would you like, with how CGI and visual effects is these days, and Hollywood being about remakes, would you personally like to see that as a remake?
Bed knobs and broomsticks? No. No. I think it's... No, absolutely.
Sorry, Rob.
It was fun. It was lovely doing it. And, it was my introduction to Disney, so yeah.
And I will just say, because everything Angela does is iconic for me, and it's almost impossible to see someone else take on that. And I just, because she's just. I mean, how many women do you know, and great actors do you know, that are character actresses and leading ladies at one time? It just doesn't happen. And so, I mean, I just want to take this moment because I think she knows, but she is my hero, and there's no one like her. The word original is thrown around way too much, but this woman is an original. Period.
You're very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks. Great to see everybody. Thank you.